Hi, I'm Patrick, and this is the Mach-E vlog. That was a kicked open, hands-free module that's from EV-Vida with Simon. Earlier today, Simon installed that, so we're gonna go back to that, show you the entire install on this video, so let's go.
Today, we're here to bring to you the module. And I know one of the biggest feedback that we got recently was, can you do something about that? Because Ford took it away. Now, thank you, Ford, by the way. We actually do have a solution for that. It's an aftermarket solution that looks completely stock. We've installed it in over, I say, about 20, 50 vehicles. Between that range for various vehicles, about 10, 15 of those for Mach-E, because that just happened in the last year. And this installation is going to show you how easy it is to do it, and hopefully we can get some more creative ideas.
Very cool. Yeah, and we'll drop some links down below to EV-Vida as well as the Facebook groups where you guys discuss all of these modifications. And if you have suggestions on stuff that you want to see these guys produce, let them know. They're literally like doing 3D scanning, prototyping here, and then they get it manufactured. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Like it was really cool. And again, at that meetup last week, it was really neat seeing people go like, oh wow, I didn't know I could get a replacement or a cover for my knob on the screen and the dividers. Like there's just so much stuff that you guys make. All right, well, let's get started. We'll reposition so that we can get some good insight in what you're doing, because this is above my level right now.
All right, thank you. All right.
We have partnered with the Dream Giveaway to bring you the chance to win a GT Performance Edition Mustang Mach-E of your very own and help raise money for veterans and children's charities at the same time.
Visit the link in the description to enter, and be sure to use the code Mach-E-Vlog to get double tickets.
So, like with any installation, always start with the easier part first. And in this instance, it's just taking off these panels. There are clips galore around here, and I'm going to show you how to take apart each panel nice and easy. We're going to start off with the center panel. So what you do is you grab these edges here and just pull down. Same with this. And then once you have them down, you already heard the first clip comes off. And keep pulling on each side. You'll see the clips. 1, 2, 3. And these are the little clips that I targeted first. So I took these little clips off, and then I targeted the bigger clip. So this is now, set it aside, always. So the next is, you can pick each side. Doesn't really matter, but there's a clip here. So you pull similarly. And now, these clips here, they do have a tendency of getting stuck. So it really kind of depends on just your luck in terms of your pulling. But before you pull, disengage it from the top part. There's these two clips that clips into the center panel. So disengage first and then pull. Now, if it's stuck for whatever reason, in which I already feel it, you have to reach to the back to grab the clips itself. The clips there's two clips. One up here, which I just disengage. And then I have to grab the other clip, which is around right here. So sometimes the clips, they do have a tendency of getting wedged in. So what I would do is just make sure you take a look at it. Don't just pull on the clip, because sometimes you may inadvertently either damage the plastic that the clip is holding on to. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of work my way and ease my way. You notice how I didn't just pull, because these clips, these plastics here, they do, if you pull with enough strength, they will rip off. So that's why I took my time. And as you can see, there is 1, 2, and 3. The first clip is the one I targeted. That one I can pull with a little bit of strength. And these I have to reach back around and make sure I grab it. So put this aside. Now we're going to go on this side. Similarly, remember this side, I can pull. This you can use a little bit of strength. And then this disengaged from the top, 2 clips. And again, because of how these clips are designed, more often than not, you're going to have to reach to the back and disengage them. So I got the one up here, and there's another one right here. So how do you know? Someone might ask, well, how do you know where the clips are? When you're reaching to the back, so this is this direction when you're reaching, and your hands are underneath, you're going to try to feel for this back part. And you can. This is the only metal piece that's on this panel. When you feel it, all you do is you pull, and that's how you get it off. And that's what I was reaching for back here. Make sure your clips are all in place. So now you have this piece off. Knowing this doesn't just help you with what we're doing, but also if you're doing dash cams, you have to come through here. If you're installing entire liftgate, if you don't have an automatic version, it has to go through here. So a series of things have to come through this. Even for the brake light pony, everything goes through this area. So this part I've taken apart many, many times. Just take your time. It doesn't take long, but this panel, back panel, there's a lot of clips, and typically I pick one side. And this part you can use a little bit more strength. So what I'm doing is I'm just pulling down. And then once you have a couple of these down,
I found this on the web.
Thank you, Siri, is I get to the back side. Because the back side is the clips that are usually a little tighter. And I keep doing it slowly and slowly for each side. Now, do not pull it off completely. This light is connected to a harness. So if you yank it too hard, you may also pull this light off completely. So make sure you take your time. And you'll see the harness I'm talking about is right here. So you have to push down on the harness to disengage it. And it comes off. Now, whenever you take this off, always look to make sure all the clips are back on. Sometimes it may be stuck in here, and you have to take it back off and put it in here. So in this instance, we have all our clips. We're good to go. We're going to set this aside. All right. So to use our module and taps, I'm going to lower this slightly. We need to tap into this button. This is the unlock button for your garage door. And that's the same button that we're intending to target. To reach to this button, you have to disconnect. So you have to reach to the back part. And this part is going to be hard to show, but on the top part of the connector, you push down and you just pull out. So you reach to the back, which is right here. You're going to push, pull, and there you go. So you can see where the tab is. Push down the tab and pull out. This is the connector that we're going to use for our tap. So there's 2 wires here. There is a brown wire and then a purple and black wire. So as I recall, we're using the brown wire. And we're going to positap that. And this is our unit. So this unit we will be installing on the bottom, but I think it's very important that whenever you install any electronics, you should test out everything before you physically install all the way through. In the event that there are issues, we want to determine what the issues are. So if along the ways you're doing an installation and you're like, well, it's not working, if you test this out first, then you know it's not the module that's not working. So that's important to check out. There are a series of cables here. There's 4 cables. Green, red, black, yellow, okay? Black is ground. I'm gonna show you exactly where the ground goes. The green is our trigger wire. The green taps into this wire in here to the brown. And then there are 2 other cables left. So if you notice at the very back end, you have something called, the red is for the accessory. Now, if we were to drag this all the way back to the fuse box, we would be using this, but we don't because we have power. Power is going to be connected from the liftgate. So we take the yellow wire and all we do is connect to the liftgate. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to tap it all into those series of connectors and then run the module. So our taps that we're going to intend to use is this tap here. Nice clean tap. Let's go ahead and disconnect this so we can reach it. So I like to use the same tap as what the car is using. And we're going to grab our tool, good old 8mm. Yes, it is. So we're going to use an 8mm at that location. So we're going to go ahead and slightly have just enough space. Run our tap underneath it. Get that good ground. Tighten it back up. So inevitably, we're going to run this back through here, but right now, again, we're just testing. And the other part is this green wire. Go ahead, tighten this up. We're going to get something called positaps. So how you use the positaps is there's 2 ends. There's a red and gray. The gray is the part where you will slide in this vertical cleared area. This allows the red to positap into the wire. So what we do is that we want to connect the positap into the brown wire, which is our trigger. So we get it in there. And then you screw the red end back in. Make sure your positap is aligned. The other end, I'm going to just show you with the other positap. There's a little hole on the very top. It's a little hole. So you slide in the other cable through, and then make sure it goes all the way through, and there's a little metal connector, and then you tighten the connector like such. And that's how you connect the positap. So we're going to do the same thing here with our trigger wire. Right here. We're going to loosen up, like I said, the red side. We're going to slide it all the way in so it's touching the metal connector. Make sure it's nice and tight. How do I know it's nice and tight? This green wire is not coming out. So then I'm just going to go ahead and connect that in. So now I have 2 of the 3 wires connected. And finally, I'm going to go into my yellow wire. So this goes to the 12 volt. The 12 volt is going to be, let me see if I can show you. This connector here, there's a red wire right here. See if I can pop it out for you and show you. So there's this red wire here. That's the 12 volt. And we could, in fact, show you that really quickly. Connect it. Connecting to this. So you see how this is our red wire. I'm sorry, let me see. You can see it, 12 volt. So it's 12.1 reading. So that's our 12 volt, our red wire. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna go ahead and get one of our positaps. And then we're gonna tap into our 12 volt. So we're gonna move some wires aside. Typically, I would probably cut back a little bit here, but we should have enough room. So we're gonna continue going with this. Let's see, make sure we pull out the wires a little bit. So this slides in. So we have it slid. We're gonna go ahead and do our best in terms of screwing this in there. So I'm having a little bit difficulty right now, probably because the wire's a little thicker on this one. So I'm pinching down on my positap a little bit more so I can close the harness up. It's okay. I mean, again, the whole point of this is to show you that see. So it's, there you go. I just need to tighten it. To double check to make sure the power is coming through on our positap, again, we're gonna connect to ground. We're gonna see if it's reading the 12 volt. See how it's reading the 12 volt? So we know we have power now coming. And this is important because we need to always verify that power is present. And now we're gonna go ahead and put our connectors nice through. Okay, so we have the power, trigger, and ground connected. I'll lift this back up. So again, we're just testing to make sure the module's up and running. I'm going to connect our connectors there. Okay, so it's gonna close. So when it closes, I have to make sure that I hit the button so it doesn't hit me. Sure. Oh. Yes, gotta make sure everything is connected back. One of our connectors may be loose. Quite often is the case. Double check. So that's the thing too when you're doing the positaps, making sure the connectors are tight is probably one of the things that happens quite often. Let me make sure that we're popping back in. So make sure all things are through. Excellent way, double checking, making sure this button. All right, so we're definitely connected here. Our power is good. We should be getting power. Ground. Our connectors are tight. And then always. So we know it's working.
Nice.
So now we know the module works fine. We're gonna work on routing the wires. So one of the things I do is when I'm working on a module, absolutely disconnect the one that's closing on your head. Not a good idea and not fun. All right, so the toughest part, that was easy, by the way. That shouldn't be complex. Just double check, make sure everything is good. So as a reminder, we have, as a reminder, we have green to brown on the connector, yellow to the red for power, ground, we're using this bolt. So all this is the fun part, you guys. This has to come through here and through this grommet. Why is this the fun part? Well, I think I mentioned this in my other videos. I think it took me about maybe 2 days to figure out how to work this grommet to a way where I can make it easily accessible. So in short, so we're gonna get our wires ready so that we're not all tangled up, getting some organization in here. So this is our connector. These are our connectors here. There's only 3 wires that we need. So it's going to be impossible to route this. You can do it through that, but what I would recommend is just cutting it. And then we're going to reconnect it back once we get through. So basically, I'm going to say about right here. The connector's off. So what we're intending to do right now is we're going to take all this wire, most of it, through here. Now, under any other circumstances, what I would do is, there's 2 ways you can do this. Certainly grouping them back up is going to help tremendously when you come through here. The other way, first and foremost, is that you still have to take this off, this grommet, and I have some extra cabling that I highly recommend, and I'll show you how to work on that shortly. But right now, we're going to take apart this so that we can get these wire, make sure that we're not all tangled up, these wires here with blue tape down here. So to open the grommet, you basically have to peel back. It's always good to have a one of those trim removal tool that I happen to have a few. Right here, best friend, these trim removal tool. Get in here, open up the grommet so you can see it. So you can see the grommet all completely. And then similarly, we're gonna do the same on the bottom. So once you have it lifted, I'm gonna try to get it from the edge instead. There. Strong thumbs. All right, so you can see it now. The grommets are lifted completely. Now we have to disengage this plastic part. That will make the install infinitely easier. So to disengage the plastic part, you pop it open. And similarly, you do it from the back. You should be able to grab it. And then you disengage from the top. So there's like 4 little clips. You don't have to get all 4. If you get like 2, the remainder part will come loose. So similarly, we do the same to the top. 1, 2, 3. So if I stand correct, if I can get the 3rd one, they'll come off. So now they're all loose. This makes it a lot easier to route your cabling. So there will be those like me who didn't know how to do it before, who will try to just run this through this way. There's a couple ways of doing this, right? You can have, if you have extra wires, you can try to just bring it through, up, and then slowly navigate. Now, if you've done this like I have, you have the cable wiring assistant that I rely on heavily. So what this allows you to do is that you're gonna take, so what I do is I grab it on the, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to get it all the way up and through. And then once I have it all the way through, and I don't have to get up through here, by the way, because I can take these wires and get it down to this spot, which I'll show you right now. So, like I said, I can get all these wires here, right? And I can navigate them all the way to this little opening. I can just reach in and grab it. It's right here. Right? So I'm just taking this through. So you could either tape this and go this way, or run this up and tape and pull down. Because the wires are a lot thinner, we do have those options available. And because we took the connector off, this makes it hard because the grommet gets caught with all the different type of shapes and sizes. What we can do is we're gonna go ahead and take our this end. I'm gonna connect, basically slide these cables in. Do not use too much blue tape. In fact, I would use only fairly little bit because I don't want to add too much thickness to this. And then from here, what I'm going to do is try to take the wires through this little hole. So I'm already in that hole, okay? So next thing I'm going to do is make sure my wires aren't too crisscrossed. Just gently navigate. You can feel it. You can feel the wires going through. And when they get stuck, it's probably because they're hitting one of these bunched up grommet. So you need to straighten it every single time. And because of the angle, I really don't like going this direction, so I'm gonna pivot. Because what I'm gonna do is that I'm just gonna go ahead and go through here on this side instead. So I can take off the grommet part because I can connect it back later. And I think I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. We're gonna just drag this through. This should be much easier. I'm gonna jinx myself though. Feel it. And there it is. So give it a couple more push. So you have the wire. So now you see it through. I'm just gonna go ahead and connect it. Just gonna pull it back out on the other side. Make sure it's all the way through. Get a little bit. And then I do add a little bit of blue tape. It's pretty good wedged in there though, but the blue tape is just really gonna add some additional support. So when I'm pulling it out, this engages back out just to make sure I have all the right cables in the right slot. So I feel like right now it's technically not through this little hole. So if I've done it, so the reason why I'm pulling this back out, I'll show you why, is my wires right now, and I'm glad I looked, and this is a common mistake, is that I didn't put it through that little plastic piece. So if I had done it, it would have been on the exterior side of the plastic piece. So I need to make sure it goes through this plastic piece here. You'll see this, right? This. So now it's, when it closes back up, there's no wire on the outside. That's why I took it back out, and it does happen. Because when you're routing all these wires at once, you just want to make sure you are following that path. So now I have it nicely pinched in, grabbing my wire. Get my wire nice and in there. So I'm taking this out. So I don't want too much tape, just enough to hold while I'm pulling the wires back through. I do want tape in areas where I do have wires kind of sticking out, because I don't want to get those get caught. And blue tape is great to use because they're easily removable. So now I have this wire. So what I'm going to do is I'm technically just go ahead and navigating the wires back out on the other end where I originally snaked in. And you just want to make sure it doesn't get caught at the very beginning. And with like any wires, you just don't want to rush it. There is your wire, it's now through. So your wires are through now. As you can see, all this is now here, right here. These are excessive cables that we will certainly zip tie later. But this wire is through. And then next thing to do with this is that similarly to the top, you got to make sure your wires are going through the plastic. And then now we're gonna go ahead and lift these areas up. These are the trims, so to access the wires, be very careful with the trimming here. So you're basically gonna pull down this liner and grab it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you. You kind of see, I'm just gonna be grabbing the liner out slightly. So all the wires. So now the wires are all the way through. So from here, what I typically do just for the interim basis is just roll this up for now, so it's not in our way. This red wire that has a connector that I told you earlier with a 12 volt accessory, we're not using that wire. So when this is all concluded, I will be completely cutting that from the connectors. So I'm gonna go ahead and, but for now, I'm just gonna make it nice and tight, because I do wanna advocate that it's important when you're wire routing that you continue to focus on cable management. It makes the job easier when it's all said and done. And what I mean by that is just literally having it all in the same area. You don't have to zip tie it for now, and I don't intend to zip tie it for now. What I'm going to do, you'll see, is I'm going to take these wires and just group them all together. Tape them up to the glass, just for now. So it's not in my way anymore, but I also know that this area is all, I already know this area is done. We're all clear. So now it's just a matter of two things. You can either connect the wires, but for me, I like to extend it a little longer, because my next step is going to be routing the module that I put aside. So what I intend to do is I'm going to take these connectors here that I already did. So I did a butt connector to it, extending it. So I literally just match color to color. The only color that I need to be worried about are green, yellow, ground, which is black, and those are the only 3. The red wire we're not going to be using. So let's see if I can open this all up. There. So I think I have my crimp tool here. I do. So remember, so I'm gonna match all my colors up. The only colors that's not gonna be matching up, I'm gonna sit in Vincent's truck, is I'm not gonna be matching up the red, because the red is my 12 volt. I'm gonna match my red with my green. And so that when I reconnect it back to the connector here, my green is gonna go to my red. So that's the only thing that's not tied. So I'm gonna go ahead and start shipping some wires out. So I have all these wires, so they're ready on the other side for connection. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this side as well. We're gonna go ahead and strip out the yellow, the black, and like I said earlier, the green. So then I'm gonna go grab some additional connectors here. I believe I needed 3 more. Normally, I have some other bug connectors I use, but today, these are the ones I brought. Because they're exposed, I do have to shrink wrap them. So I have these here. So I'm gonna go ahead and crimp these. So I got my yellow that I told you about. And then my red, that's gonna go to my green. And then my ground, which is pretty standard. And because I think these are going to be too, yeah, I can use a bigger shrink wrap. Figure that was going to be the case. So 6 of the larger shrink wraps. So now we're going to connect yellow to yellow. Those touching, so I have my, I'll do this first. My red to green, because I don't have a green wire to extend per se. That just happens to be the color that I have to work with. Okay. And then my yellow wire, which I do have, that's my power. So get this range. So because of the metal on this, gotta make sure they don't touch. So I'm just gonna shrink wrap. Okay, so one more, get some electrical tape for the last one. So similarly, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side because that's where our extensions are. Put these in first this time. That way I don't have to use electrical tape. So I got my ground in here. Grab this. I'm only doing 3 wires, like I said earlier. Okay. Yellow to yellow. So get your crimp tool ready. Slide the yellow connector in here. Yellow to yellow. Okay, and then red to red, red to green. Get this crimp connector ready. And then last one but not least, the ground. Oops. We're gonna go ahead and cut. We need to extend this longer. Let me grab another butt connector. Okay, so this is our last and final one that we're connecting. Oh. Whew, thank you, Patrick. I'm gonna. We're gonna connect these back. Red to red. All right, now all my wires are good. So once again, like I said, tend to like to test things out because this is really going to be the last step. All my wires back on. Oops. That's what we test. Make sure my red, green to red. Okay, so we know one of our cables is not fully connected. All right, so we're back. And reason why it wasn't working before was we actually had the fuse in here. It burned out, so we replaced it quickly. So always check power. And conveniently, if you do need to replace the fuse, you don't have to go buy one. Remember the one that the red line that we didn't use? Well, it actually has a fuse inside that one too. All you have to do is unscrew, grab it, and just put it into the yellow line because that's your power. So consider it a backup. And more often or not, if you tested it and it's working fine before, and once you either had to splice the wire again and it's not working, always check power. Because the ground source didn't change, our pin source didn't change, so there's only just one source. And also making sure your connectors are fine. So as you can see, we're gonna show you that all our wires have been extended, and Once connected, again. Oops. There you go. Caught it. All right, so it's working. The next step, now that we have all these things done, is we're going to install the sensor on the bottom. So we're going to reposition probably the camera.
Yeah, that works.
And then we'll go from there. All right, so we're going to start removing some of these stuff off and setting these aside. I'm going to walk it to the side. Right there. Because we do need to access getting the module at the very bottom. So there's a couple of screws that, they're not really screws technically, they're more like push pins. So you basically just, loosen them up and they pop off. Put these aside as well. And then from here, you want to lift this off, put these aside. So what we're trying to do is try to get, let's see if I can, yeah. There's a hole right here. So to get to this hole, you need to take this panel off. And to get this panel off, there's 2 bolts here, and then there are 2 screws up at the very top. Once this pops off, this little felt can be folded aside, because otherwise you're not going to be able to reach. And so to do that, all right, so check this out. I'm going to pop these off, these little clips. So you'll see it. There's like little screws underneath these clips. I'm trying to do, I did one earlier. Yeah, this one pops off. Pops off. And you'll see these star screws. So the star screws we have here. I'll loosen them up. This comes off. We set this aside. Set this aside. And then on this end, there's 2 of these bolts. They are 8 millimeters. So we're gonna go ahead and pop in our 1 and 2. Put those aside. So now with this off, this actually pops off. Kind of hear it. So it's still latched on by this trim. So we're going to pull back on the trim. And then we have to take one more piece off. Let me see if I can afford it, but probably not. So this is the last piece that holds it in place. So now all this trim piece, this trim piece comes off. Now, like I said earlier, there is a hole right here. I see it. So what we're going to do is we typically, there's a little, this little piece is what we're going to route underneath it. So I'll put this aside right now. To get it up, the module, just like what we did before, right? It's always easier to grab it from the top. So we have this wire that goes down. Okay, so we're all the way through now. And now, of course, you don't see anything because there's an underbody carriage that we need to remove slightly, not the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is grabbing, I want to say, yeah,
Oh, good catch.
Woo. Our 10 millimeter. And the only piece that I need to remove from the telemine is this little panel here. And there's 3 bolts for the 10 millimeter. So I got the three bolts. And this part, it slides out. It's like a little drawer. And when you look exactly where it was routed. There you go. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna grab the module that we have, right? Again, our favorite friend today, our blue tape. Tape around. I also like to tape around the connectors just to protect it. And so, we're gonna come back to the top. Let's move our tool to side slowly. And as you can see, we've already pulled it out. And this is the last time you'll see the green wires used today. Before I connect our wires, I typically like to slide it between, I think, these 2 bolt area, but it's always up to the users. So for now, there's no gluing because the way these bolts are designed, it pins up. So I typically just go and have it wedged around this area. These bolts are really this is gonna hold it. It's not gonna move. In fact, it's not moving anywhere right now at this moment. We're gonna test for the users if that's an area where they're comfortable. Again, it'll be right here. We can move it out further, but for now, we'll leave it in there. I'm gonna drag out the excess of cabling. So everything's connected right now. And I said, I think it's right here. It's right there. So, let's see how far I have to reach in to get it. So it's really close. So I'm gonna move it a little bit further out. So that's how you test. So I'm gonna move it out more. Not sure I'm at the right area. It might be better if I get it right closer. There. Okay. I think I have it right here. Yeah. Okay, so I have it literally in this little pocket. Right. So basically, you're talking about this little dot straight down. Watch. All right, you see what I'm aiming? You want to come and just give it a wave? Yeah. So you don't have to go back and forth. It's just one direction. But it's where that little dot is. And I think the more you do it, the more you get accustomed to where it actually is located. So, but you don't have to start the dot. You know, you can start further out, you know. So, and if you need to stop it, didn't stop it in time. All right, so everything is good, connected. So when does this not go on, right? Just like any other car manufacturer, if the car is on any driving mode, right? Forward, reverse, this will not engage. But that's the only time it won't engage, because if the car door is locked, it will engage if something runs underneath it. No different than if you can unlock the door. Same thing. If your car is parked but your engine is on, it can be engaged. Obviously, if the car is locked, you walk away, there's no power, can't engage. So it just kind of give you the behaviors. It mirrors whatever typical behavior for your trunk is. Now we're just gonna route some wires. So the bottom is defined, and now to do the wiring part, let's move this out later. But this part, we're gonna try to route it just like this. So what I typically do is go on top. There's already room there. And then now in this part, I do lift. So when you don't have to, try not to take the trim all the way off. And you don't have to at all times. Some of them, because of the way how the trim is designed, you have no choice but to do it. But in this instance, yeah, pop this back in later. And all this is gonna tuck underneath. There's a little seam here. Tucking. All this cabling. So this most likely going to be zip tied in this manner down here. So grab our zip ties, because now we're cleaning things up. Oh wait, I forgot I think we deferred one of the more important things to the end. All right, so that part is good. This part is nice and tucked. Okay, so well, you know what? We'll finish this cable up, and then we'll show you how to do that last part. Okay. So our red, like I said to you all, we're not going to be using. We're going to dispose it. So best way to dispose the wire is withdraw it completely. And then this, I tend to do, obviously you want to follow the same kind of path back down here. Now, the only thing that is all up here, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to get them 2 spots. So we don't get too tight. So here we go here. Basically, we grab one of our zip ties. It's one. And then we take this. I'm going to get it all the way until over here. So I'm going to grab some of these wires, our ties here that we can use. one. This is good, this is good. And then our last one. Okay, so this is our ew. Now all this is done. I wish I can say that was the last thing to do. There was one thing that we didn't do yet, and it is putting these grommets back. This, if routing the wire was hard, I would say this may be, that was 1A, and this may be 1B. So how do we put the grommets back in? If you are nimble enough, get in here all the way. You're gonna pop these back out. And how it works is that your backside needs to cuff in first. So trying to get the back end of the
Here's some information.
back end of the grommet cuffed in. Okay, I feel like it looks good. Now that I got the back, oh wait, it popped off. All right, the back look like it's good. Now you gotta get the front in. It's always easier to get the back because you can't see it. And then now to grab the front, you basically have to peel back. Look what I'm doing. Just grab enough so it wraps around all the way. I think I did it. And that, see, that's how you cuff it. And this, that's the top part. So we're gonna repeat the same on the back side, on the bottom side. So again, what you're gonna do is you're gonna target the back. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get as much of the back of the grommet in. And to do so, work around the edges. The hardest part is not seeing this little back corner. So it's really just a matter of finding it, cuff, and then working your magic afterward. This is, it looks like we make got it. So again, all this is cuffed. And next last thing is, before I touch this part, because it's white liner, and I would advise not to, after you touch your hand, it's super dirty. See if I have my car nearby. I do. So I have some gloves in the car. Like this is literally the last step. Yeah, so notice I put some gloves on. And the reason behind this, the liner itself, because it's usually a lighter color. And trust me, by the time you got through all this, your chances are your hands are gonna be super dirty, unless you wash it routinely. Even then, I would still recommend putting on some fresh gloves to do the last part, which is really just putting back this liner back up and grabbing all this back in there. Voila. So the gloves are off. Let's make sure that we're gonna start popping some stuff back in there, because now it's just reassembly. We're gonna put this piece first. And for those, you may want to come take a closer look. You got to make sure it goes in between the liner. So once you pop back in there, there's a clip, and then start pulling this back. It goes in between that liner. This part. Yeah. So this piece is good. Let's get the gloves out the way. So we got that working. Yeah. All right, we know it works fine. Now it's just reassembly. So we're just doing everything that we did before. Just in reverse. Let's go ahead and pop those screws back in here. These bolts goes back in. And I bet you it is our 8mm. Get these aligned. You don't want to over tighten it. So that's good. And then we're gonna pop this out. Grab our star tool. Put these back in here. So the ring faces the front of the car. Make sure it sits flush. That's one. And then again, make sure it sits flush before you put it back in. So that's good. That's close, close, close. And then there's a piece here that we're gonna put back right now. Goes in. And now this part, with the exception of this, goes in like such. And remember, there's these two little caps that we took apart and they basically screw in here. But as you can see, they don't really do much screwing. It's just more of a pop in, pop out. That goes back in there. We're gonna put back the trims on the top. Okay, so the trims on the top. Make sure you connect the lights. Which, by the way, these lights if we're modifying it at our store right now, we're making some really neat halo lights, which makes your trunk infinitely brighter. So these are popped in. All right, so that's good. Now, we're gonna do the side piece. So here's my advice for the side pieces. All right, so let's do the side first. You see these little hooks? Pop these hooks in first. So it grabs it from the main panel. Remember how we disconnected? This is the last piece. So this got to be the first piece that goes in. Oh wait, wrong side. Is it the wrong side? Yeah. So these hooks goes in first. So align it. So it pops in. And now make sure you are on the exterior side. So you see there's a bunch of little lines out here. That's basically your marker. You got to make sure you are on the exterior side of the marker. So that's good. And then similarly, we gotta make sure we get these hooks in on this side first. So now it's popped in, you can see it hanging in there. So again, these are your interior trims, so you have to make sure you grab and have it on the exterior. So everything is aligned, so there's nothing popping out. All right, so there's that. And then the last piece is probably the easiest piece. Line up. Everything's put back. Now we're gonna go to the bottom of the car. Remember how we have this piece. Now, when you're working underneath your car, you probably will highly likely trigger this because you're gonna be moving back and forth. So just be very careful. We're gonna grab our tool and grab our 10 millimeter. So we're gonna slide this back in. So the one with the single hole goes in as such. So you're gonna slide, there's a little, yeah. The only thing I will say though is the very back end, it needs to be on the exterior side. So the back side where you're sliding in, when you slide it all the way to the end and the edge, it needs to be on the out. Let me see if I can. So basically, you're not seeing the interior holes. It's all, this part is on the exterior, and even this part on the all three holes on the outer side. And then after that, go ahead and find the slots for each one, which is 3 total. One. Okay. And let's see. Everything's put back together. Well, not everything. There's other stuff that Vincent had to travel with, but the stuff that needed to be unscrewed are all put back together. Now, just to verify, everything else works the same, right? You can still use the button. That has no impact to it. If you come look at the inside, all the wirings are all tucked, clean. Your grommet is nicely tucked back inside. The area that we pulled out is now secured The trim is nicely tucked back in. Our wire, if you recall, is coming from down this grommet and down this little seam here, and then into this little spot that goes underneath. And again, our wire is tapping into this switch, which is being routed all the way down through here. And I think that pretty much wraps up our extended version of this installation. We had some challenges, but I think it's good. Things happen. Take your time. But if we didn't have the fuse issue, that probably would have helped at least another 15, 20 minutes. But it's good to see that if things like that does happen, you know how to troubleshoot. You can always reach out to us at EV-Vida. We've done enough where it could only be a handful of issues. I'm not saying user issues. It could be the product, but 90% of the time, it's probably installation related. With that said, I think this wraps it up. Thank you for having us, Patrick, and Liv. Thank you for having us, and Vincent for your car to do this on, and trusting me with the car, and signing off.
As Liv would say, hold on, we're gonna just make Liv do it. Oh, I can't get my mic. Here, you're just gonna have to talk to my mic.
No, just do it.
Yeah, I'll hold it. You got it.
Are you serious? Pull that
Yeah,
out.
yeah, we're gonna do that. I can't. Hold on.
As Liv would say, welcome to Behind the Scenes. This is the garage. We have Vincent, Pia, Talik. Thank you so much, Simon, for doing this install. And as I would say, just remember that whatever you drive, whether it has a liftgate or not,
An automatic,
hands-free liftgate, kickable, aftermarket by EV-Vida. Enjoy the ride. Bye.